In this video, I will show you how I created this tent card with 2 layers. I'll be using products from Hero Arts, but I encourage you to use whatever you have in your stash. I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Hi, this is Anna from Crafty Anna Studio. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I post card making and paper crafting tutorials. Let's start with creating the bases and elements needed to make this card. I have here an 8.5 by 5.5 piece of heavyweight watercolor cardstock. This one I have came in this month's My Monthly Hero Kit. I score and fold it in half on the 8.5-inch side at 4.25. Then I take a separate piece of cardstock cut to 4.25 by 5.5. On the 4.25-inch side, I cut it at 1.5. Then I cut another piece at 1.5. Then with the remaining piece, I cut it again in half at 5/8 of an inch. Then on the piece measuring 1.5 by 5.5, I score one side at 1/4 of an inch, then turn to the other side and score again at 1/4 of an inch. Then I scored it half at 3/4. Then I will fold the score lines, starting with the middle by folding it in, then folding out to 1/4 inch on both sides. I will do the same for the other 1.5 by 5.5 inch piece. For the thinner strip, I just fold it in half and use a bone folder to make sure that it is creased well. These will be the tabs I will use to create a tent card. But first, let's create a background for this card. I take the watercolor cardstock folded card base, place it in the middle of the MISTI stamping tool with temporary tape, also adding tape to the inside of the base to prevent it from opening up. I'll be using reactive inks for this simple background technique. I'll be using Splash, Pool Party, and Blue Hawaii. I have here a cling stamp from Hero Arts called Aqua Texture Bold Prints. This is from the June 2023 release. I position it on top of the card base and close the door of the MISTI. I already moved the foam pad earlier in order to accommodate the thickness of the rubber stamp. Then I start with the lightest color, Pool Party, and swipe it across the bottom part of the stamp. I use a swiping and stamping motion to make sure I get enough ink on the stamp. Then I take the next color, Splash, and apply it above the Pool Party, taking care not to have the ink pads touch the previous color. And last, I apply the darkest ink color, Blue Hawaii, at the very top. These set of ink cubes are from the C Palette Collection set from Hero Arts. I take a spray bottle filled with water and spray the surface until small beads of ink start forming. Then I will close the door of the MISTI and give it a good press. I lift the door to reveal a good inky background. I just love the effect. Some ink did not transfer to the very top, and although it won't be seen at the end, I just wanted to cover it up, so I took a brush and painted it on using some of the leftover ink from the stamp. Speaking of leftover ink, I will use it to create more inky backgrounds. I take a piece of watercolor cardstock, spray the stamp again with water to reactivate the leftover ink. Then, I pounce the paper on top of the watery ink, shifting it around to pick up more ink as I go along. Then I take a paintbrush and splatter more ink on the surface of the paper to add more texture. I also do the same on the other side of the folded card base. Then I set it aside to dry. These are what it looks like when dry. Next, Let's cut out the openings for the tent card. I'll use the swirling tide border fancy die. If you don't have this or anything similar in your stash, you could always use different sizes of basic shape dies like rectangles or ovals to create the openings. I tape the die to the top part of the folded card base, then I will die cut it off camera. I will do the same with the other panel. This is what it looks like with the openings cut out. For the middle panel, I will rotate it so that the swirly pattern will be different from the one in front. Before I assemble the tent card, I will add a little more color to the middle panel to give it more depth. I will use the blue color of reactive ink, Blue Hawaii. And since the die cut area is very intricate, I will use this ink pouncing tool from Picket Fences. I add ink to the tool by pouncing it on top of the ink pad, then pouncing it again on the intricate die cut areas. This is a wonderful tool to color in die cuts such as these. Off camera, I had already added acetate to the back of the cover of the card base, and then I will add acetate to the middle panel as well. Speaking of the middle panel, I will trim just a tiny sliver on the top and at the bottom so that it will not stick out of the card base. I will just trim less than 1/8 of an inch, not too much as I need enough to cover the tabs as you will see when we start assembling the tent card. I take the smallest folded strip that I have prepared earlier and I will adhere it at the topmost part of the inside of the card base, just like that. Then I will add some glue to the back of the fold and place it down right below the fold line. This strip is important to add as it adds stability to the middle panel. Then I add a strip of glue to the edge of the upper part of the middle panel and adhere it on top of the strip tab. Then I will close the top and press it down to make sure there are no obstructions in the fold. Next, I take the bigger tabs, which I will use for the bottom of the tent cards. But first, I will trim off a little on both sides so that it will not show through the opening. The position of the tabs is like a W, and I will adhere to the bottom of the back panel just like this. I will add a small strip of glue, then line up the tab to the bottom of the paper, making sure it does not go over the edge. Then I will do the same with the back of the front panel. Trim a little, then add glue, then adhere it just at the edge. Then I will adhere everything together after I add the decorative elements. Off camera, I stamped and colored in this fish, which is from the stamp set Hello Fishes, which is also from this month's release. I colored them in with Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, and the sentiments are heat embossed in white on black cardstock. The first thing I do to create my scene is to lay everything out on each layer just to make sure every element is well balanced in spacing and also that they are not covering each other up. I start with the bottom layer, then I add elements in the middle layer, then finally the top layer. I will also figure out the right size and placement for the sentiment. I will also use these flat sequins as embellishments for the card. Once I'm satisfied with the placement, I will start adhering the elements starting at the bottom panel, working my way up to the topmost panel. I will turn up the music a little while I do this, as it's all pretty much self-explanatory. Then I'll come back to show you how I assemble the card. But before I do that, I would so appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, and comment to my YouTube channel. I'm interested to know if you're enjoying my tutorials or if you have any suggestions for future content you would like to see. Hi, I'm back. So now that all my elements are glued down, it's time to put the tent card together. Let's start with the bottom layer. First, I fold the tab in half, then I add glue but only to the thin strip on the top. Next, I close the middle panel onto the glued area and press down firmly for a few seconds to make sure the glue sets. Then, I flip the card to the back of the front panel and do the same. Fold the tab in half, add glue only to the thin strips at the top, then fold down the entire card panel on itself. I hold for a few seconds to make sure the glue sets. And that is how I create a double-layered tent card. I really enjoy making interactive cards and layered cards. If you'd like to see more of the cards that I created, I have it linked above. And if you're interested in the Hero Arts products I used in this video, I will have it linked in the video description below. But I have a full list of supplies on my blog post as well, which is also linked below. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this tutorial for you. Till next time, bye!